crap with them.
Every time my parents come up, some box of, oh, here's your mementos when you played soccer when you were 6. Mom, I'm 33.
.405. Let's begin our work session. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Mr. Bozen.
Here.
Mr. Nichols.
Here.
Mr. Kreider.
Here.
Mr. Foyce.
Here.
Ms. Creighton-Smith. Mr. Childs. Ms. Wilder. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as proposed, as well as approve the minutes of May 1st, 2023 as proposed.
Second.
Motion been made with second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have a meeting. First up, Mr. Greider.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So this is a discussion on the climate action plan, which is something we've been working on. I've invited Kamiar and Cheyenne and Ashley Coffey to come in and talk to us from the UNI's Center for Energy and Environmental Education. So I'm going to turn it over to them. They have a presentation and then some questions they'd like to ask us.
Great to be with you. I'm Kamiar and Cheyenne, and
I'm Ashley Coffin.
I'm the director of the center. Ashley is assistant director and also director of our AmeriCorps program. So I thought we would briefly share with you the kind of work we do so you kind of are familiar with our work, and then we can talk about issues that really, as a group, we need to talk about, that you want to talk about. So I'll just start by saying that we're an outreach center, an outreach arm of our university. We've been there for 30 years, and we have 12 staff, and we're statewide, though we have a significant presence in the Cedar Valley. About 10% of our funds come from UNI. The other 90% we have to raise as entrepreneurs. We apply for grants. We're very competitive. We have to be always out there supporting the kind of work that we think needs to be done in our region. So I want to quickly go, Ashley and I will quickly give you a sense of there are three general areas of work that we do. And what they share in common, we're action oriented. Like, we're not talking, we're like acting on what we already know, what evidence that we have that we got to act on. What are those things? One is energy conservation and efficiency. We already know what needs to be done. We have a very wasteful energy culture, and we think there is plenty of room to save a significant amount of energy in our communities. So I want to, let me forward. So how does that show up? Let's see what happened. Oh, there we go. There it is. Ashley, talk about our AmeriCorps program.
Sure. So we have Green Iowa AmeriCorps, which hopefully some of you have heard of. We've been operational since 2009. It's the largest environmental AmeriCorps program here in the state of Iowa and has been traditionally focused on energy conservation and energy efficiency in the residential sector, looking at mostly our most at-risk population. So folks who are low income, folks who are living in poorly maintained rental properties, folks who are elderly and can't physically make upgrades to their own homes. We've been targeting those and have reached thousands of homes here throughout the state of Iowa, but have been operational here in Blackhawk County and Waterloo since 2009. So that's been a huge arm of our center for quite a long time, is the energy efficiency component. And over the years, we've expanded to include work with K-12 school districts, focus on land and water management. So you can see there us doing rain garden installations and tree plantings and water quality monitoring and energy audits and school waste audits. And so this is a very big, active, kind of engaging community arm of our center, as Kamyar mentioned. But from the energy perspective, Green Iowa has kind of been that full boots on the ground force over the last decade or so here locally and throughout the state. So. And and these are our host sites. We currently have around 25 different host sites throughout the state of Iowa. Those are partnered with city governments like the city of Dubuque, the city of Iowa City. It's also partnered with county government, small nonprofits, universities, and colleges. So we have a variety of folks who we work with to do a lot of this direct service implementation.
All right. So the next program of our center has to do with strengthening the local food economy of our region. We work with farmers, institutional buyers, grocery stores to encourage residents of Cedar Valley and actually residents of elsewhere in Iowa to invest in local farms near them. So we work really hard to connect farmers to consumers. These are examples. For example, we came up with the idea of a mobile produce stand to serve neighborhoods that lack grocery stores and no farmers market will ever be near them. Well, we created a farmers market in those neighborhoods by going and harvesting vegetables and reselling them. And actually that program, this is an example on 4th Street. And that whole program is now run by We Arose, which is Daquan Campbell, who runs the We Arose co-op. He is currently running that. We also work with People's Clinic. We run a large garden there. So this is to give you an example of the kind of on the ground actual things we do. So we're not a big research center. We're action. Like, let's go do it. In addition to we have a third of an acre garden at People's Clinic. All the produce go to the patients of People's Clinic. One of our latest projects is a garden in every lot, where we offered anybody who wants a vegetable garden to let us know, and we'll go actually install a garden for them. This is all a way. These are all first-time gardeners, people who have never done this before and want to do it. And we've done so many. And one of our latest programs, actually right after this meeting, I'll be headed there. Highland Park. We worked with the Waterloo Parks Department and have created this 48-plot community garden, and we're establishing it as we speak. And all of the 48 plots were taken immediately. So there's a lot of interest. So increasing access to fresh seasonal produce right in our community is the goal of our program, and a whole variety of strategies for doing that. And our last aspect that I'll talk with you about is environmental health in our community. There is significant evidence that we shouldn't be using harmful, hazardous chemicals right in public spaces. So again, our center, acting on what we know, started a program of reaching parks, schools, and childcare centers and getting commitment from them to not spray their yards. And it has been amazing. So we have developed lawn signs. We consulted with Iowa City Community School District. They committed 190 acres of turf not sprayed as a way of reducing children's exposure to pesticides. as you can see, that one is a statewide program. We're working with lots of communities that are committing to make their communities more healthy. And none of this work is done by Ashley and I. This is our, whoops. All right, there we go. This is our, that one is showing, there we go. This is our team. This is our team of our staff. And so that was a very brief background of what our center does. And now we want to talk about the kind of work we like to do and we're currently doing with quite a few communities, and which is resilient Iowa communities and action plans and greenhouse
Sure.
gas emissions, et cetera.
Yeah, so one of our newer programs is Resilient Iowa Communities. And essentially, we've been partnering with counties and municipalities to focus on collaborative efforts to bring them essentially a bundle of resources, collaborative support, best practices, and then actual tactical benchmarking for them to be able to have a great plan for how they can improve their community and their own specific needs. So we've partnered with, Lynn County Sustainability, the city of Urbandale, Mount Vernon, Decorah, so a variety of sizes. And really each of those have started with a greenhouse gas inventory that's allowed them to either work internally within their own city or a community-wide scale for them to essentially, get a benchmark of where they're at, where they're seeing their most excessive energy use, or if it's in their transportation sector, industrial, what they're looking at as far as emissions go, with the similar goal of all of you to try and work towards neutrality. And so we've been able to work with a lot of different cities to start with those benchmarking practices. So our staff and our AmeriCorps members have been able to utilize tracking software and collaborate with those cities and counties to get the information they need to give them a plan that they can then make tactical decisions based off of. And so as part of that, we've kind of been a helpful arm in most locations. They just don't have the internal capacity, somebody on staff that's been able to have the bandwidth to do this work. And so the reality is it usually gets keep pushing it down the road often. And so this is a great place for cities to be able to start. And then we've seen them make some great project decisions based off of those things. And so, we coordinate with Mid-American Energy. We have a big residential energy portfolio. We work with the IWRC on UNI's campuses to also do small business energy audits. We've assisted with things like solar group buys. And so I think that the nice part about Resilient Iowa Communities, as far as, something within our center portfolio, is that it's so adaptable to the interests and the needs of a group. And so it's a great place to start to give you information to make decisions. But from there, we really have this great kind of menu items that you can choose from if you want to focus on energy, or you want to focus on water quality, or you want to focus on trees or transportation. So you go to the next slide.
Okay, wanted to give a few examples of the kind of projects that are energy and community related. Typical neighborhood, brand new or maybe 20 years old, stays this way, versus this image of a neighborhood with trees, which is very pleasant. So we've worked with a lot of images on East 4th, where we did massive tree planting and continue to do so with the city of Waterloo. And I guess this is the part maybe you can talk.
Yeah, I think the other big part of this whole thing is highly visible education and neighborhood outreach, right? So engaging the community and generating buy-in in the projects that they're going to see some immediate impact for. So engaging volunteers and participants in large-scale, neighborhood tree plantings. We've done a lot of stormwater mitigation, watershed improvement projects, and then also really appreciate this block-by-block method where we can look at specific, communities or neighborhoods within our city and try a block-by-block approach where we're looking at energy, we're looking at food, we're looking at trees, we're looking at rain garden installation, with the idea that you can transform a neighborhood, right? And so all of these are really engaging community members in this process, volunteers, students, our staff. And so you can kind of, again, go back to that menu item of different things that are a high priority to this group, which we're excited to hear about today. And obviously transportation is another kind of key component to all of this. Our center doesn't focus on transportation within our own kind of expertise, but we're working a lot with community partners like Met and Intercog, who are really focusing a lot on bikeability and walkability and public transit, EV charging stations and things like that. So one of the great roles that I think we can play is we're working with all these partners all the time to bring everybody to the table, and we're all familiar with one another to kind of move some of these projects along that are a higher priority for the council. So role of CEEE, or at least is how we see it as we kind of are coming to all of you, is really planning and coordination. You know, as Kamiar mentioned, we are a center of doers. And so as part of that, we're very well versed in project management and implementation and have that expertise of bringing the right partners together, having a good sense of what kind of planning is necessary and coordination with things that are, I think, as large scale as a community-wide greenhouse gas inventory and climate action plan, but also those projects that kind of build momentum along the way, like a tree planting effort or an energy conservation campaign or a stormwater art project, some of those things that are going to continue to generate visibility within the community. Obviously, we have the capacity to implement our CEEE services. So when we're talking about tree planting or food or energy, those are things that are going to be, at our disposal immediately as far as the things we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And then obviously facilitation with other partners. We all know kind of how long it can take sometimes to get everybody to the table. And so I think that's a role that we play often and do well, bringing the relevant people that need to be part of some of these projects and who, share in our expertise or have separate expertise to bring some of these things kind of to fruition. So that's how we would envision kind of our role as we show up today, just sharing more about what we do and how we can envision potentially helping the city of Waterloo move forward with what they envision their biggest goals and priorities to be.
So is our last thing for us to consider is, we're curious what aspects you're interested in. We don't have any, we told you what we know, what we do, but it's really up to you to say, okay, what aspect of this interests you? And so, we just posed a few questions. What are some high priority goals of community resilience for Waterloo? What do you consider success, or what do you envision? What are some aspect, whether it's about energy or other aspect of community that interests you, and what questions and suggestions you have? So we'll just leave it to Jonathan to get us started.
Yeah, so just a bit of background. We had worked with the CEEE a while ago, early in the pandemic, and we did a study with them, but things got busy because there's this thing called COVID. And so we don't right now have a resiliency plan for the city. So I think that's one thing that I think we would want to look at. We've adopted some pretty significant historical benchmarks in terms of carbon neutrality for our energy sources. But there are certainly other things that we could do. So I definitely think that having a plan would be the first thing that we want to do. But then I'm certainly open to discussion on all the things that the CEEE can provide us with help on.
Mr. Chair, I really appreciate some of the information you brought to us about the Garden Every Lot and the things that you're doing in some of our neighborhoods already. What is your capacity to kind of expand some of those things to other neighborhood associations or provide opportunities for other neighborhoods?
That's a great question. Well, on the garden front, lots. We're actually in conversation with Todd to do what we did at Highland. There's no reason we couldn't do it in any other parks. In fact, quite a few residents approached us and asked, well, they've got a lot over there, but they really prefer to have it closer to their neighborhood. And so, yeah, we can easily do that. It's really working with the Parks Department. Yeah.
So if somebody was interested in doing something like this in their neighborhood, would they reach out to the Parks
Department?
Department?
Us or contact Todd, and then Todd knows how to get hold of us, and we'll work with him. Yeah, okay, totally.
So leisure service.
And I know earlier we had talked about with Jonathan about group buys and the earlier resolution that you guys passed about, carbon neutrality by 2030. Those are, we've been involved in group buys where we work with several solar companies, and I wonder if you're already in conversation with some, or,
Mr. Mayor, we have a resolution on that tonight. That
Oh, okay.
Yes, up for a vote
Great.
tonight.
So that all relates to all of this.
Council? Well, I think we probably, so what I'm trying to do is not go 150 different directions and not have the staff capacity or the ability to reach out. On the council agenda today is a vote to adopt the smart city plan. We've worked with Honeywell. On that portion of the plan is a climate action portion of it. Once we see if that's council's druthers to move forward, would love to get back in contact. And at the same time, revisit the proclamation, which I know we met before, but also go into further development. I think one of the things that in all of this, we need to make sure that, and you had it up on your PowerPoint presentation, is to learn to bring the partners along first, instead of dropping something on them and then having to backtrack a little bit. And so the first thing we do, we need to get this plan adopted. And at that point, we need to continue the conversation about putting something together. And I know you can be a help in that capacity, so. Council?
Thank you.
And I've enjoyed working with you over the years as well. And I'm still trying to search for a couple more bucks for the veggie voucher program as well, because we need to make it happen, so. All right,
Great.
anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion been made with second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.